What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a potential trade target for the Detroit Lions. This is a receiver that recently basically just put himself on the trade block when he and his agent requested a trade. So in today's video, I thought we'd discuss this receiver and talk about whether or not the Lions should even be interested in this receiver. So let's get it started.
Way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome everybody to a video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, I know we're in a different environment again, but today I thought we'd talk about this receiver that has kind of become available for trade. Not necessarily because it's not like the Patriots put him on the trade block, but he did request a trade, and assuming he does get traded, well, I guess then he'd be on the trade block. So I thought we'd talk about today whether or not the Lions should be interested, because everybody tells me the Lions receiver position is so bad. So now there is a receiver, a young receiver, a former high pick in the draft available. Why not at least discuss this player? And this is one of those guys that I went back and forth on multiple times. I first started off with hearing the idea and I was like, ooh, I don't really know. I know he hasn't done extremely well there, but I did like him coming out of college. So I wasn't really sure. I went back and forth on him multiple times. And comment down below what you guys think. Should the Lions be interested? But hear me out. Let's get it started. All right, so let's talk about this receiver. This is N'Keal Harry out of Arizona State, the former 32nd pick in the 2019 NFL draft. So yes, he was a first round pick, the last pick in the first round, that just has not had that much success so far in the NFL. He's got a good size, 6'3", 200 plus pounds, 228. Now let's not even say 228. That's a really good size, but he's not that fast. He's not super explosive, but he's very strong. He had 27 bench press reps at his combine. Very strong, physical receiver, good size, can play outside, can play inside, played a lot more inside at Arizona State. That the Patriots, they needed outside receiver help when they drafted him. So they did it with the last pick in the first round, but so far it hasn't went so well. Now, unfortunately for N'Keal Harry, he has been in 2 different kind of systems basically so far, because he started with Tom Brady in 2019. He didn't play in every game, and he didn't have a huge role in 2019. But then he moved forward to 2020. His role was expected to really improve and started off that way, but then he was injured about 5 games into the season with a concussion. He came back, his role went down, and he was playing with Cam Newton, so it was a little bit of a different system, I guess you could say. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but that means he still has 2 years left on his rookie contract, plus he would have that 5th-year option. Let's say the Lions hypothetically traded for him, they could potentially bring him back for a 3rd year. So the Lions could potentially lock him up for a few years. That's not super expensive if they made a trade like this. He is only 23 years old. But like I said, his first 2 years in the league have not been very good. Now, out of Arizona State, he was fun to watch. He could play inside, play outside. Really, to me, his biggest strength was just making guys miss. You got it in his hands, and at his size, he was tough to bring down. He's extremely strong. He is a ferocious blocker, but man, he can make guys miss in space, and that was a problem. They threw a lot of screens to him, but at the same time, one-on-one, jump ball, contested situations, you could put it up for grabs, and he would go win that matchup more times than not, and that's what the Patriots drafted, but it just hasn't turned out that way. In his first season, he just went over 100. He just went over 100 yards. He had 105 yards on 12 receptions of 24 targets for only 2 touchdowns in his first season. But 2020, when he came back, it was looking like he'd have a bigger role. And really, for the first 4 weeks, he did have a pretty big role. He only finished with 33 receptions on 57 targets for 309 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's like worse than what Quintez Cephas put up last season, and he was not a top receiver or a first-round pick for the Detroit Lions, plus Cephas was a rookie. So yeah, statistically speaking, the production just was not there. As I mentioned, it was kind of unfortunate how last season went, because through the first 5 games, he played 80% basically of the offensive snaps. But then when he had that concussion in week 6, I said week 5 earlier, in week 6, he came back after missing 2 games, and his role just got a lot smaller. It bumps down to 36. He was playing 65% of the offensive snaps. And then this offseason, they go out, they bring in Nelson Aguilar, they bring in Kendrick Bourne, they bring some help in, they bring in a lot of tight end help. And now it's like, hey, I kind of went out of here. For him, it'd probably be a good thing, honestly, to get in a new environment, to get in a different spot. And for the Patriots, it might be the best to see, hey, what can we get now? Because his value doesn't seem to be extremely high, but you never know because he is so young and he was a top pick. Some team may be willing to throw out a good offer out there just because they believe there's upside that maybe hasn't been tapped into yet. Diving into the film of N'Keal Harry, and this was with New England in 2019, 2020, also back with Arizona State as well, because I wanted to get some glimpses there. I think I have a pretty good feel of what kind of receiver this is. And of course, the Lions actually made a move and they acquired him. We dive into this like crazy, but I just want to do a quick little background on how I feel and what kind of receiver I view him as. All right, so N'Keal Harry is a very physical receiver that's lined up at a lot of different spots. He's played inside, he's played outside, he's played the Z, he's played the X, he's played slot, he's played big slot. He's lined up at a lot of different spots, but he's played a majority of the time in the NFL outside as an outside receiver. Specifically in 2019, he did it about, 80% of the time. In 2020, that came down a little bit to like 65%, but he's played a lot more on the outside than he has to the slot. However, at Arizona State, he played a lot more at the slot position, even though he was 6'3", okay? So he's a receiver that's played a lot of different positions. So he has a background, he has the ability to do that. He's versatile, which I think fits in with a lot of receivers that we have when you talk about, Parham, Tyrell Williams, when you talk about Ratley, these guys, Cephas, I can play inside, outside, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they could all do that. So I think that's the first place that he really fits. But also with his size, he's just extremely physical. Very physical receiver, 6'3", 228. I mean, that's fantastic size, 220. You don't see a lot of receivers that big. Now, he's not super fast, but he is, he's not slow when you consider that he's 228 and he had 27 bench press reps. Very physical receiver, and really all facets of the game. As a route runner, he's a physical route runner. He'll play through contact. A lot of times he has to, but he'll leverage his body, get himself in position, kind of box out defenders. Also at the point of attack, he's fantastic at the point of attack. And I think this is something that New England really liked when he came out of the draft, because like I said, they needed an outside receiver. And at the point of attack, one-on-one situations, he's one of those guys that you can just throw it up. He doesn't need separation. And kind of a little bit back to like the Galladay and the Marvin Jones thing of you don't need a lot of separation because I can just go win that jump ball. That's what he did really well at Arizona State, not as well in the NFL. However, he has that ability. He plays through traffic extremely well. This guy doesn't just drop passes because he's going to take a hit. He's just an extremely physical receiver with that physical play style that you absolutely love. You just do, because for a guy that's going to play inside, outside, he's going to take hits by linebackers, big safeties, he's going to play through that. He's taking some monster hits and he gets right back up. He doesn't drop a lot of passes, extremely strong hands. Then you also throw in the fact that the dude will block. And I know some, scouts, maybe they don't take it into consideration as much, but for N'Keal Harry, he will absolutely block. And I think it's important in an offense like this that's going to run a lot of screens. You need receivers to block because they're leading the way a lot of the time. Also, you got to have guys that can block when you're running outside zone plays. You need receivers that were willing to block. There were some times where New England, they would just bring him on the field to block. He can line up on the inside. He can get behind a tight end. The guy can absolutely block and move people back. He's an extremely competitive blocker. So I like that. Like St. Brown a little bit, honestly. Very competitive. You like it because of his size. He should be that way, and he is that way. So just a very physical receiver, pretty much all around. But then the things that you don't love about his game tend to be more on the speed side a little bit. It's not really a burner. Tyrell Williams has some top end speed. Rashad Perriman has some top end speed. He doesn't have fantastic top end speed. His 40 wasn't bad though. It's just not great. It's solid. It's just not great. It's nothing that blows you away, especially at the NFL level, but he does have solid top end speed, so it's not bad. Explosiveness though is probably his biggest issue. And you can see in his 10-yard split, it graded out poorly. This is probably one of his biggest issues, and it leads to a lack of separation because when you put him on the outside, he's trying to break in and out of routes. He doesn't explode extremely well, and he just doesn't have that quick twitch in his game. So for him, it causes a very big lack of separation. And we know for years with the Galladay and Jones, we didn't have a lot of separation with our receivers. But it seems like what the Lions have been acquiring this offseason is receivers that have gotten a lot of separation, and he hasn't done that. Okay, last season, get this, he was only open 25.5% of the time, which is 3 or more yards, and that was out of 100 qualifying receivers, 99th. All right, the guy just did not get a lot of separation, so that's an issue. But also, to tie in with that, which we're going to get into, he played a lot at the outside receiver position, and that can also lead to issues because I think their wide receiver coach or their offense coordinator, I can't remember which one, said it best. Hey, separation isn't just about the receiver. It's about the quarterback throwing it on time, right? Because if he's not throwing it on time, yeah, the defender's going to get back into play. It's also about the scheme that you're in. Some schemes get more separation than others. So there's other factors than simply saying he doesn't get separation. Sage Surratt a little bit, but Sage Surratt was just extremely slow. He's not that slow, but he's not that quick. He's physical, so he can play through the contact. It's not like he's going to get held up at the line of scrimmage, but he can definitely be slowed down a little bit. And the issue here is that when he's pressed, he just doesn't get a lot of separation off the press. He can't really make you pay for pressing, if you know what I mean, right? You get blow by you like a guy like Perriman could if you get up on him. Should the Detroit Lions be interested in a guy like N'Keal Harry? There's a lot of reasons to say they should and a lot of reasons to say they should. I know most people think Lions need receiver helps, their receivers are trash. Get him because he's a receiver. It could just be as simple as that too, and that's fine, I guess. I don't think that. You know, I think for us, it's actually more about health than the talent. I think we got talent. I think they got to stay healthy. And that could be part of the reason why you maybe want to acquire him, because you're like, hey, we need to make sure we're healthy. It'd be nice to have even more depth. And I don't think you can go wrong with having depth. It just depends how much are you willing to pay for that depth. The question I kept asking myself is, how do I see him fitting with the Detroit Lions? How do I see this guy, you know, finding a role with the Lions? Where do I see his role for the Lions? How do I think that he would fit this offense with Jared Goff, with Anthony Lynn? You got to push him inside more often. They used him like a big slot. Now, the Lions have Tyrell Williams, and we talked about it with Anthony Lynn. About 50% of the time, he was holding down that role. But I do think he needs to get a little more inside. I think tighter formations will be very beneficial. You could take away some of that press, but the further you push him inside, you're allowing him to go against linebackers, smaller cornerbacks, because you got slots on him. So at that point, he's getting an advantage. You know, he has an advantage on safety. He has an advantage on linebackers, because those are guys that he's actually quicker than. You know, some of those outside cornerbacks give him issues. I think pushing him inside would be extremely beneficial for him to get him more reps inside, not lining up outside all the time. See, like I said, the Patriots, they need the guy that can play on the outside a lot of the time. And I think the Lions don't necessarily need that like the Patriots did. Reps of it with the New England Patriots, where they would run him on drags. They would run him across the middle. I loved it because across the middle, the guy was not afraid to take a hit. He'd go up in the air, use that 38.5-inch vertical, snag it out of the air, and then take a big hit. But he'd come down with the football. And also probably one of his best traits, if you watch him back in college, just look up highlights. All right, just look up his highlights back in college. I'm sure you're going to find a lot of plays where it's just him catching it and he's just making guys miss. It's just as simple as that, because he's really good after the catch. Kind of like Tyrell Williams as well. He's just fantastic after the catch. Even in 2020 with the Patriots, a third of his yards came after the catch. That's the kind of receiver that he is. So allow him to play a little more inside, drags, crossers, kind of like what we're going to do with Tyrell. What Tyrell said he was excited for is where he could also get involved a little bit too, able to use a lot more of that yak ability, is that you can use him on screens. Not only as the guy that's blocking, but also as the guy that's catching the football. On screens, like I said, this is where he gets really dangerous, because he makes you miss in space. He's strong, he's tough to bring down, but he makes you miss. Now, he didn't have as much success with New England as he did seemingly back at Arizona State, probably because guys are a lot quicker. However, that's one area that you could use him. And one thing Goff does, and even going back to Cal, is he throws a lot of screens. He likes to throw a lot of screens, and that's fine. A lot of his yards come after the catch. Last season, he had so many of his yards. I can't remember the exact amount come after the catch, but you guys know I've said the numbers before. Back to look at him with the LA Chargers and who, you know, has done well there. Well, one guy the Chargers drafted really high with Anthony Lynn, about him when we did our Tyrell Williams video, it was Mike Williams. Mike Williams was a very big part of that LA Chargers offense, and there's a lot of similarities when you compare the two, just on their builds, their speed. I'll throw up the relative athletic scores here, and you can just see the comparisons across the board. Size-wise, Mike Williams is a little bit taller, but you can see they both have really good size to them to play that outside receiver position. You look at the 10-yard split. This is why I say he's not super explosive out of breaks. He's not very quick. He's not super twitchy, but also you look at Mike Williams, he actually has a slower 10-yard split. The 40-yard times are almost identical. Now, N'Keal Harry has a lot more bench press reps. He was much stronger. The vertical is better for N'Keal Harry as well. But in terms of builds, there's a lot of similarities here. Use him as that deep threat on the outside with a lot of single coverage, a lot of one-on-one opportunities to just go to work against that cornerback. And when you watch N'Keal Harry back in New England, I was impressed by some of his route running, his ability to stop and start, you know, setting up double moves. He could get a lot of separation there. You're back with the Patriots. They didn't really have a guy that would take the attention of a defense away. Now the Lions do. When you talk about TJ Hockenson, Tyrell Williams, Brashad Perriman, these guys take the attention of safeties, whether that's over the middle or whether that's over top. Some you get those matchups that you saw back at Arizona State where he was dominant, jump ball, contest situation, back shoulder. Oh, he was fantastic with the back shoulder passes. And this is something that Cal did a lot as well back when Jared Goff was there. Throw back shoulder passes. And then you need a quarterback that's willing to take that shot, willing to put up there, willing to give him a chance one-on-one. And Cam Newton, you know, he had a very low intended air yards last season, but we've seen Jared Goff, depending on the offense that he's in, specifically back with Cal in his final year, take a lot of shots out of the spread. Plus, throw in there N'Keal Harry was a spread receiver as well. You have to utilize that size to an advantage. There were other guys to take the attention away. There was their Keenan Allens, right? There was their Austin Eckler's. There was the Antonio Gates. There's the Tyrell Williams like we have now. There was guys that would take attention away, and it could open up Mike Williams to go do his thing on the outside. You have to play him to his strengths. You got to play him to his physical side because he's physical. You can't expect him to win one-on-one, you know, make all these route combinations. He had a very limited route tree in New England because that's kind of who he is. But they got the same way Anthony Lynn found a way to make Tyrell Williams successful and to have Mike Williams be dominant is the same way that I feel like he could, you know, fit N'Keal Harry into this offense. A Z receiver that can play in motion a lot more because then you can take that press off him. If you're the Z receiver, you're not against the line of scrimmage, it's tough to press guys like that. Or you can mix him at X occasionally if you get one-on-one opportunities. But to me, if you're putting him at X, you got to just say, hey, quick hitters, screens, right? We're attacking it quick because we can't ask you to have this long drawn out route where you're trying to get separation. You've proven that doesn't work, so let's not do that. You have to play him to the strengths, and I've seen Anthony Lynn do it with multiple guys, and that's why I would have trust in Anthony Lynn being able to make this work with Antoine Randall L. I mean, this would be turning into last chance you, and I don't have a problem with that because they're all going to bring that mentality. And also the good thing is you would have a guy for 2 years, potentially with that third year option, where the Lions are going to lose Tyrell, they're going to lose Perriman, they're going to lose Ratley, they're going to lose Raymond, they're going to lose all of these dudes unless they re-sign him after this season. So you could potentially have a guy learn from Tyrell Williams, learn from Rashad Perriman, learn from Antoine, come back next year. They said, where are we 2 years from now? Be a part of the team again and hopefully improve, take on a bigger role next season. The issue is that I don't know how big his role will actually be this season. Even with what I just explained, and maybe he does take over, there is that chance that he does take off and he has a big role like Mike Williams was able to have with the LA Chargers. There's that opportunity that could happen. There's the upside. You take the risk on that. However, how much are you really willing to give up for a guy that may not be that big a part of the offense this season because of the depth that you simply have? However, next year his role could definitely improve when those guys leave, and it's his opportunity to kind of take off in this offense that he learned a year before. I think that's the benefit. I actually like this as an opportunity for N'Keal Harry if he was with the Detroit Lions. When you look at what his agent said when they requested the trade, he brought up the limited opportunities that he got, only 86 targets. So I actually like this as an opportunity for a guy like N'Keal Harry. I first off think Anthony Lynn would put him in a good spot to be successful, which we've seen with a lot of different guys. Also, I think there's a quarterback upgrade here when you consider Jared Goff. Last season with Cam Newton, Jarrett Stidham, regardless of who it was, I mean, there were a lot of missed opportunities. There's a reason they drafted Mac Jones. There were a lot of passes that were just simply missed, even if he was open. So there's a reason they drafted Mac Jones. He is the future. But I think for the Detroit Lions side of things, I don't know if I could see them giving up anything sort of substantial whatsoever for a guy like N'Keal Harry, unless a guy like Brad Holmes back when he was scouting during the draft back in 2019, he really liked N'Keal Harry. Now that he's available, he really wants to go after him. I actually like the talent in the Lions receiver room more than a lot of people. My biggest concern, though, is injuries, because a lot of these guys have dealt with injuries. So as long as they're healthy, that's the biggest thing, is that they need to stay healthy. I think you can put him in a better scheme, but he still has to prove it. I mean, with the Patriots who needed help at receiver, Myers became the guy, not N'Keal Harry. And even, all the factors that go into the injuries that he dealt with, maybe not being in the right scheme, maybe losing some confidence. Regardless, he still has to prove something. And the Detroit Lions wouldn't be getting a guy that's already proved it. They also have Sage Surratt, who brings that physical, contested catch kind of guy. This is exactly what he did at Wake Forest, and that's how he dominated, is he would win those one-on-one opportunities. So I think that he could fit in this offense. I think he could make it work in this offense. I think he'd be more successful in this offense, but I just don't think the Lions would be willing to give up very much. He was released, then I could see the Lions maybe take a shot and sign him. Maybe they could give him an opportunity there. The Lions would be interested in giving up a lot here. So should the Lions be interested? I would say yeah. I would be surprised the Lions weren't interested, because they could use receiver help. They could use guys that are healthy, because the thing is, we know Perriman's dealt with injuries. We know Tyrell's dealt with injuries. Their biggest thing is, can we just stay healthy? Tyrell didn't even play last season. Brashad has missed a lot of time. They need to stay healthy. So yes, the Lions, I think, should be interested in him. But the question then becomes, how much are you willing to give up? Because personally, I don't think they need it. I really don't think they need it. I think they should be interested in N'Keal Harry. So comment down below, should the Lions be interested in N'Keal Harry? My answer would be yes. It would be yes. What would I be willing to give up? It would have to be a very, very late round pick. But if he gets released, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions went out and signed him, because they would have the money to do it. I think they value their draft picks too high. They know that he's only got 2 years left to deal, and I don't think he's coming in as we know exactly what we're getting. However, it is an opportunity for a last chance. See what you can do. He has some upside. I think he would actually fit in this offense schematically. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.